Pro-Palestinian protests taking place in London, people shouting out some really of the most, and to be serious for one moment, we've been friends for a long, long time. You're Jewish. It must be very...
it is very worrying, and also it's unbelievable. It's sort of the atmosphere has changed, hasn't it? You could, I mean, especially on the tube today coming in, because obviously there was a lot of people going there, and there's a lot of tension. You can feel it in the air, and it's a bit of a worry now that we're seeing where these people are standing. I mean, we can see it on the screens there. This is what's going on, and. You know, they started first celebrating before Israel had even reacted, so it was just really a celebration. And that is illegal to glorify terrorism.
I'm going to tell you this now. I don't think I'm ever going to pay the BBC licence again. I will not watch television illegally, as far as I know. And no, knocking on the door, you won't be permitted unless you come with police. Because as far as I know, Andrew, you're not legally able to come into my house without a warrant, are you? Well, if you're not watching the BBC, then you don't need a licence, and that sort of thing, and you're not receiving it.
But it's not just about any live TV, actually.
And you're working on that sort of basis. So I think it's very easy, and I think the reality is, James, that they've got bigger issues to deal with as we talk about. I think it's disgusting. Hamas is a terrorist organisation, yet the BBC refused to give them that label. What do you think? Well, I'll tell you what I think, and I've listened to John Simpson explain the reason, to put a bit of balance here, is that the BBC say they're trying to be as objective as possible, so they don't use what they call loaded words like terrorist.
Some of the time.
They will condemn the activities and they will talk about atrocities, but they won't talk about Hamas being a terrorist organisation. What they will do is say that governments around the world call them a terrorist organisation, including ours.
That'd be all right if it was consistent, but they do call people terrorists, like the Manchester bomber, so...
And that's the thing. So what we need to look at, Tim Davie is basically explaining about that. He's talking about journalists within the BBC being at risk of that sort of thing if they start using language.
They have to be impartial.
They have to be impartial.
What, even to the Nazis in the Second World War? Let's hear what the Nazis have got to say.
Their argument is, and plays devil's advocate, and say because they're not here to defend themselves, so I might as well tell you what they would say if they were here. What they're basically saying is that it's up to the audience at home to make up their own minds. What they will do is they're trying to be as objective as they can be in the situation. Okay. I'm fuming with the BBC. Now I'm going to go to the calls, 0344 499 1000. You could text us at
87222.
You could text us to 87222.
The word talk. Tweet us at the James Whale, at talkTV, at Virtual Ash, at Andrew Eborn.
Let's go to the call. Nigel, I happen to know, is a news photographer, and he joins us now. Nigel, I presume you're out on the street.
Well, good evening. I'm actually home now, but I've been out all over North London in the last few days since this dreadful terrorist incident took place in Israel. And I was prompted to ring you over a couple of subjects. I think, first of all, as a licence payer, which I have to pay the licence, it's a legal obligation.
Only if you watch TV that is live.
Yeah. Or the iPlayer.
Yeah.
Okay. But I think the BBC should hang their heads in shame. They refuse to accept that Hamas are a terrorist organisation, even though they are prescribed in law under the Terrorism Act as being a terrorist organisation. It's absolutely disgraceful, and it seems as if they're taking sides. I think that's fundamentally wrong.
I think basically, I mean, coming back on that, I don't think they're denying they're a terrorist. They're not using the language. And they say that would go against their fundamental principle about trying to be objective and describe.
But what do you say about them not sticking to that principle? Because they don't always do that.
And that's
so
the
therefore it fails. It shouldn't be. It should be ignored.
So that's what you need to look at. So you need to turn around and say, if they're going to be this, it has to be across the board. And I'm sure there are lots of examples. You can turn around and say, let's address this then. What they will do, they're not saying they're not terrorists, they're just not using that language because they're trying to do the balance. And I guess looking at the other way,
but cutting babies' heads off and that's not balanced. You're balanced about that.
No. All right. I think there's an answer. Guys, we'll take some more calls. Nigel, thank you very much indeed for that.